Getting assets ready for digital use is one of the most important tasks for junior designers today. This is different from getting files ready for print, opens in new tab. You might be asked to make or change images for websites, social media campaigns, display ads, email newsletters, video animations, infographics, and app designs, just to name a few. Ali Rohn Clark, a senior designer, says that a typical task at Conran Design Group might be to create images for a responsive website. Once the design has been approved, we'll make a core master file for each asset size. These files will then be saved for the web using the right file format to make the files as small as possible while keeping key details, so that these assets are fast to download, for example, on mobile. So how do you make assets and change them for digital use? There are 4 main things you should think about. Number 1. Master the fundamentals. Firstly, you'll need to understand the fundamentals, which hopefully you'll have covered on your design course. From a functional perspective, typically you should ensure you're using the correct color settings in Photoshop, RGB rather than CMYK opens in new tab, explains Osman Ghani, Global Digital Advertising Director at Hogarth Worldwide opens in new tab. You'll need to be working in the correct digital pixels per inch, giving Photoshop layers the correct names and positioning layers from bottom to top. You'll need to export the correct digital formats as stipulated in the brief, and ensure text boxes and images have been snapped correctly. And you'll need to adhere to best practices such as naming conventions, clear folder structures on the server, and using version control files. Number 2. Follow brand guidelines. Secondly, each project will come with digital guidelines that are specific to the brand, says Andrea Esteban, digital designer for Bathall opens in new tab. Much of the time, this will be relatively routine. Most of our projects come from existing clients whose guidelines we're already familiar with, she explains. But for new clients, we have to ask them, fully analyze their requirements, and think about all the limitations they may present, in terms of file size and colors, for example. Number 3. Test your designs across different platforms. Thirdly, in an ever-changing digital environment, you need to keep up to date with the platforms you're designing for. So for example, says Esteban, I have private social media accounts to test, and then delete posts to see how they look across all devices. We often design quite innovative posts, like click to reveal on Twitter or filter to reveal on Instagram. So testing how everything looks in stream rather than guessing is better. After all this, it should be easy to change each artboard to all the different sizes you need. Ajelly.com opens in new tab, has all the different up-to-date sizes, but Googling each platform also works. Number 4. Know your organization. Finally, you'll also need to understand the systems and processes of the organization you've come to work for. Junior designers come in with the basics of design and asset management preparation, but they won't be ready for the studio filing system, says Rohn Clark. This is where we spend a lot of time with them, showing them how we file and set up stages for each design job. Understand the deliverables. How much your design course will prepare you for all of this will vary. Chloe Holden, a junior designer at Conran Design Group, says hers was a little patchy. While I'd learned that RGB was for digital and CMYK was for print, what I didn't realize until I was an intern is the importance of double-checking file settings when going between digital and print files, she recalls. Nor did I learn the hows and whys. It isn't until you are working in a studio that you learn how to take a brief and understand the deliverables clearly. Alina Morin, a UX/UI designer at Atom 42 opens in new tab, also points to the importance of the brief in preparing digital assets. Be sure you receive a good one, and don't be ashamed to push back if it doesn't contain the information you need, she stresses. A baker can't work without flour, and you can't make the assets without the correct specifications. Most ask questions. Most importantly, keep asking questions, she adds. For example, if someone asks you to create a display ad, important points to double-check include the size of the creative, dimensions needed, and minimum and maximum weight allowed. Is it animated or static? Do they want a still image or do they want dynamic elements? If it's animated, do they want an interactive ad? What type of file? JPG, PNG, MP4, HTML5? And where is it going to be displayed? Every platform has its own unique rules. This can all be slightly overwhelming at first. As a junior, you will get a lot of work to do, so time is key. Tracking your hours carefully makes it easier to prevent issues and correctly organize your projects. And if you feel overwhelmed, tell your line manager so they can organize, push back, and share, if possible, with the rest of the team. Sharing is caring. So don't just say yes all the time or you'll end up producing less high-quality assets as a result. Tips for creating digital assets. 1. Work efficiently. Always ask what digital output the assets are needed for, how many versions you will need, and across how many breakpoints, says Ron Clark. Set up a process that anyone else on the design team can pick up. Make sure you have a definitive list of assets that need to be created. 2. Understand goals. Be clear about what you're designing for and where the asset will end up, says Holden. Then you'll know how to create the optimum design to suit each digital application. For example, an asset for Instagram will look very different to one for a web page. 3. Adjust screen brightness. When altering colors for digital, make sure your screen brightness is up, adds Holden. It's a simple thing but very easy to forget. Always test it and get a second opinion from a senior designer. 4. Save assets correctly. Saving seems the easiest step, but if you're not sure about formats, it might be the most difficult one at the beginning, says Esteban. Save for web, export. They all have different settings that will make your life easier or more difficult, so check which one is the best option to optimize your exports. 5. Get GIF right. There's a big trend right now for GIFs opens a new tab over videos, but remember they're super compressed, which means potentially lower quality content, adds Esteban. Also, if exporting from Photoshop, remember it only allows 500 total frames, which sounds like loads, but it's not.